Okay, so great story. Something that happened today. After the long weekend that we had, we had a great break, and then we need another break for the break. So me and Shira went out for lunch today. Woohoo! Yeah. So we had a great time. We don't go out for dinner. We only go out for lunch when the kids are in school. It's too much to bring a babysitter for 5 kids. You never know what will end up happening. So, anywho, we went out for lunch, and something cool happened. It's a great restaurant. I don't want to say their name because I don't want to embarrass them. But there were eggshells in the scrambled eggs that they made for us. So, well, not for us. Mine was fine, and there was just like a bit of eggshell in Shira's one. So without skipping a heartbeat, she said, "Oh, Shira, you listening? You know this story? You were there, right? Or you went on your phone or something, right?" So without skipping a heartbeat, she's like, "Oh, thank God they make fresh eggs, and they don't do the, because nowadays you get the eggs that they put in the, in the milk bottles. For some reason, they have egg in milk bottles, whatever. So they, the ready whipped egg." So she said, "Thank God, this is a sign that it's fresh eggs." So instead of looking at it from a negative perspective, she looked at it from a very positive perspective, and it was genuine. And I was like, wow, that's why I'm going to start. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to start talking about that because that was a really good lesson to me. So in life, yes, I agree. Well, it's pretty obvious that you got to be positive to do things like this, like a Shabbaton, then another event and another event. But here's an example where I saw it in real life, where you could have easily said, "Oh my goodness, what are they putting eggshells in my food for?" But instead, it's a way of seeing the positive light naturally of what happened. I got food, but I know that I'm getting fresh food. And it really was. It was great. Just a few eggshells. It gives some crunch. Why not? Okay, so my point is that a lot of us, including myself, has the knowledge that being positive is good for us. Anyone here think that being positive is bad for you? Right? Me. No. Okay, everyone here thinks and knows that being positive is good. But the question is, are we able to implement that into reality? And that is something which is much harder, right? In theory, we know a lot. But when it comes to action, it's much harder, especially when we're tested. Okay? Especially when we're tested, in action, it's much, much harder. Agree? So we all know that being positive is good for us, but the question is, can we? So basically, what I want to talk about is how action is what matters more than the knowledge. And you need both, obviously. You need to know what it means to be positive. You need to know how things work in relationships, right? You need to have the knowledge, because knowledge, they say, is power, right? Chokhmah, wisdom, is something very important in Judaism, so we've got to learn. But the question is, can we actually apply that and put it into action? So there are 2 things that are needed in order to put things into action. Okay? This is the statement in Pirkei Avot, and it says like this: wisdom is not enough. You can't have just wisdom. You have to also have the willingness to want it. So, anyone here been to the doctor? Right? Before? Never? Okay, you're all healthy. I've been to the doctor. I go to the doctor. I have no clue about medicine. And he prescribes me medication. Does that mean I shouldn't take it because I haven't learned medicine first? Or should I take it because that guy knows what he's doing? Anyone here a doctor? You pointing to someone? Mishu po rofeh? Ma? Ach sheli. Okay. So anyone here a doctor?
Oh, yeah, me.
Okay. The pressure's on. He wants to release it.
We have a doctor in training here.
Who? Oh, okay. Someone on the way. In order to get prescribed for medicine, you don't have to actually know about the medicine. You need to just agree and want it. and take it. Okay, so that's really where it matters. Now, getting out of the whole discussion of whether you agree with conventional medicine or you prefer not to have conventional, it doesn't matter. The point is, you will never take something unless you really want it. So the first thing we need is to want something. You want it really bad. So there are people that know a great deal about relationships and how relationships work. There's some people that have studied relationships. I always talk about the example of somebody that I was once listening to. I forgot who their name was, but they were in 4 different marriages. And they are now in their 5th marriage. And it was on the radio, and they're a marriage counselor. Can you believe it? 5th marriage. I don't need to know how to get divorced. I need to know how to stay married, right? If I'm a marriage counselor. So it could be that a 5th marriage is doing very well, right? But the odds are that I want to learn from someone that's successful in reality, not just that knows the knowledge, but lives the talk as well. Okay, so when it comes to relationships, knowing how the relationship works is one thing, and that's the wisdom, but respecting it and appreciating it, that's what will make the relationship last long. Wanting the relationship, asking yourself, why do I need a relationship in the first place? What do I want it for? And I truly believe that if somebody is dating just to date, so then they don't have a deep enough reason for their relationship. It's not deep enough of a reason. Right? Although, yes, it's true that the relationship is made to make me grow and to have somebody in my life and that I have the comfort of someone else in my life, but that's not the only way. The other aspect is that if I have someone in my life, I'm going to grow with them. I'm going to work on myself with them. There are many aspects that I need to learn of why is it that I need dating in the first place? Or why is it that I need a marriage? Or should I have a marriage in the first place? Someone gets into a marriage. Why do you need it? If you don't know really why, but you have all the wisdom of how marriage works, but you don't yet know to its fullest of why I want it. Why do I need this? Then the whole thing, the wisdom, all the wisdom that you may have about the differences and what makes a relationship work and how a relationship can eventually dismantle. You can't be greater than knowing why you want something. First, you got to know why you want, then your wisdom can match it. But your wisdom can never be greater than knowing why you want it. Okay, so, hey, what's going on? Right, so you've got to want something and also live to it, to apply to it. Okay, so that's the same with the knowledge of Torah. How does it work with Judaism? So there's a lot of people that know, right? There's a lot of people that know a lot of Judaism. Anyone here dated someone that knows a lot more than you in Judaism? Yeah? Every single one you've gone out with? Okay. How does that make you feel? Good? Inferior?
Not the right partner.
It's not the right partner, or may it be? Maybe it will be.
You admire that person and you feel like, wow, I need to be.
If you admire them and you feel like, I want to be like them,
Yeah.
is that enough of a reason to say, okay, let's do this?
No.
What happens if somebody admires them, says, I want to be like this person, and makes tremendous changes in their life just because of that person? Is that healthy?
No.
Just because I want that person. So how do I know if I'm changing for that person or I'm changing because I really want those values? Okay, let's say I go out with a girl that's keeping Shabbat. And I don't keep Shabbat, but she's really cool, she's fun, she actually has some great values. Okay, you know what? I want to keep Shabbat too. And the guy starts keeping Shabbat for her. Is that unhealthy? Yes? Absolutely. Doesn't have to be. Eventually he can want it himself. Who said that? Okay.
She's having a laugh at
I mean, I just feel like way more people and I'm feeling.
I'll tell you that it can be very, it might be true that you can eventually really want Shabbat yourself because you see it in that person. You say, oh my goodness, fine, I've never met a person like this. I've never met a person that has these strong values and they are so put together spiritually. I've never seen something like, I want that. Right? That can happen and that can inspire you, but then there's a catch. To make the commitment to marry such a person, you will always be asking yourself, maybe I'm making that commitment only because, right? Maybe I'm doing Shabbat only because I made the commitment to her. It could be very dangerous. Because later on in the relationship where things don't work out, because no relationship is going to work out perfect, right? Then you'll say to yourself, oh no, I did this whole Shabbat for them and it's not going so well right now. Or every time that there's an argument, Shabbat is getting in the way. I'm doing this because it can get in the way. So what a person needs to do is take some time where they're on their own, figure out if this is something I need to do for myself. This is the most healthy way of doing it. Obviously, it can happen that it's the other way around. But the most healthy thing a person can do is figure out if this is something I want for myself. You can be inspired by someone, but you also have to figure out if I'm doing it for them or I'm doing it for myself. Okay. Everything here makes sense? Sounds fun? What's your name? Pinny. My brother's called Pinny also. It's a very special name. Are you a Kohen?
No.
Okay. A wannabe Kohen. Don't we all? Special. Okay, so I'm going to read what it says in Pirkei Avot, and then I'll leave you for a few minutes to discuss one or two questions. Okay. This is the statement in Pirkei Avot. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa Omer, a great rabbi, his name was Chanina ben Dosa, and he said like this: anybody kol sheyirat chet'o kodemet lechochmato, chochmato mitkayemet. Anybody who has respect, fear, awe of Hashem, and that respect comes before his wisdom, then that wisdom will last. But if you've got somebody who has a lot of knowledge, but doesn't really care too much about what they're doing, then the wisdom is not going to last. You have to have two things. One, the knowledge, and also the want, at some point, the respect for what you know. Okay, you know that this person is amazing, but do you also have respect? Do you also have the reason of why I need this person in my life? Why this is important? You have to have two things. Okay, one is the knowledge, the awareness, the wisdom. When it comes to Torah also, you have to have the knowledge. I know about Shabbat. Let's say Shabbat's a great example. But the question is, do I know why it's important for me? I know about kosher, but do I know why it's important for me? Do I have a respect for it? In fact, I don't even need to know the reasons of it, but do I respect the concept? Right? The fact that it's coming from a creator of the universe. Just like somebody who goes to the doctor and has a respect for medicine. So if you have some form of respect for medicine, then whatever you learn about medicine is going to be absorbed a lot more. Okay? If, let's say, somebody here, this is a great example, if somebody plays soccer and they're really good and they get promoted, they get asked to play for a professional team, but then they play, but they don't really know which team they're playing for. Like, what's the story of this team? It's not the same. There's a difference, by the way, when a football player plays for a city during the year or versus playing for his country. When you start playing for your country, then you're like, oh, wow, this is for my country. I'm going to be patriotic for my country and play that game to its fullest. So there's a difference to doing things not only because you know it, but also knowing why you need it. That's when you start loving it and having awe for it. Okay, having respect for it. So we need both respect and also knowledge. Okay, and then it says, anyone who has more wisdom than awe and respect, he knows much more, but respect is very little, it's not going to last. Your knowledge is not going to last. What is it there for? You need to have a lot of respect and a lot of wisdom also. You've got to know how the relationship works, how to make a relationship work. You've got to learn the Torah. which teaches you how to make the relationship work. But you've also got to respect the concept of a relationship. Some people, they are in a relationship and then they go out with their friends and they talk and they discuss how bad relationships are. It's messed up. So much better without it. Okay, well, so you have all the knowledge of how to make a relationship work, but then the respect for the whole concept doesn't exist. It's not going to last. Your wisdom is there, but it doesn't last. So the Torah says you've got to have both, awe and respect, awe and wisdom. Okay, then he says like this. This is the same. Rabbi Huaya Omer, he would also say, anyone whose actions are greater than their wisdom, then the wisdom will stay and last for long. Meaning it will work. But if a person knows a lot, but doesn't do anything about it, you don't practice what you preach, then en chokhmato mitkayemet, the wisdom doesn't help. So everyone here knows it's important to be positive. But what happens if you find eggshells in your restaurant when you eat and you start eating it and it goes in your mouth? So you know how important it is to be positive, but then in reality, when it comes to the test, it's very difficult to put it through. So the knowledge isn't as great, is only as great as the action. Right? In Judaism, we teach that you can never help someone to its fullest extent unless you yourself are helping yourself in that area. Okay, so you can train a person to be healthy and happy, but the question is, are you able to train yourself to be happy? Because if you are going to be the best person to help others if you're healthy within yourself. Okay, so that's the three aspects basically that one needs in order for anything to work. Number one is respect for whatever it is that you want, whether it's a relationship or for your job. The second is knowing about your work, learning about it, knowing the wisdom. And the third is putting it into action. Not just knowing, but actually putting it into action. This is the statement of Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa. Okay, so here is a question. I wrote down some questions. Maybe you can discuss it. So we have Dave and Sarah. They are dating. And like we said, Sarah, let's say, knows a lot more about Jewish practice. And I asked, does that mean one person knows much more? Can all two people know the same? No. Right? Is it possible that everyone knows the same as each other? Are we all on the same level? No, no one is going to be on the same level as you. Whenever you go out with someone, most likely they're either a little better at you at some things or a little lower than you at some things. There's never such a case where you'll find two people on the exact same level in all areas. Yes?
Physical or mental?
Both. Well, physical is irrelevant. Physical is attraction. If you're attracted, you're attracted. That's right. But I'm talking about mentally, okay? Physical is about attraction. And then once you have the physical attraction, you also have to look and see if there's compatibility emotionally. Okay? The first thing we look for is physical attraction. That part is simple. You might say it's not simple to find, but that part is simple. Your body talks, right? It's not rocket science.
That part's a must if there's not that.
Absolutely, absolutely. We already discussed in our dating series that in Jewish law, you're not allowed to marry someone if you've never seen them first. According to Jewish law, you can't, let's say, send a messenger to say, hey, can you marry so-and-so? Let's say that you're stuck in Russia and you can't get out of the country, and you found out about this amazing girl and you want to marry her, so you send a messenger. You're allowed to use a messenger to marry someone, but you can't if you've never seen them before. Okay, that's Jewish law. Yes, were you going to say something? Yes.
I can't remember, but back in our Israel trip, remember we learned about the three, like, bracha,
Tov and Chaim.
Chaim. So it ties into like how you're going to have, your partner's going to have two, and you're not two, but you're going to be, each one is going to be lacking in the other, so you're going to...
Yeah, you've got to compromise and also be similar in some ways, right? You have to have compatibility, but you also got to compromise each other in some ways. Because no one is going to be exactly the same. So here's the question. Let's say David and Sarah's going out. I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about this. David and Sarah are going out. Sarah's a little more in practice than David. That means she knows more about Jewish practice. Does that mean now that they are compatible or are not compatible? What would you say is necessary to make them compatible to each other, even though they are different? Remember, we said no two people are the same. We might have similarities in some areas, but no two people are the same in terms of where we're holding in all areas of life. Okay? I'll leave you for a minute. Okay? 2 seconds. It's over. Okay. I'll give you a minute. What is her approach? And sorry, are they compatible?
I have the answer. As long as they're both under growth,
Okay, but we need something. Okay, that's great. Let's find something more. Based on what I said, that in order to be attracted to someone, or at least, right, to be with someone, you've got to have knowledge, respect, and also. So Dave and Sarah are dating. Sarah knows a lot more about Jewish practice. Does that mean they are not compatible, or does that mean they are still compatible? What do you think? Okay, we hear something very beautiful over here. It's not only about spiritual knowledge, it's about, do they really have a connection with Hashem, with the Creator? Okay, that's beautiful. Anyone else? Based on what we were talking about, that you need 3 things. Knowledge, right? Because knowledge is everything, but you also need respect and you need action. Okay, so what do you guys think? Can you be compatible?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Remember, we said no two people are the same anyway.
Doesn't matter.
Otherwise, marriage can never happen. Right? So what is the condition? Where's Melissa? She said something good before. Right? As long as you're going, oh, there you are. As long as you're going in the right direction, right? Okay, anyone else?
I think we go to the same shoes. Just drinking.
Yeah.
I think complementary is more important than being compatible.
Okay, complementary. I like that.
I think it's important that they're going to say the same message to their children and not conflict each other.
Okay, same message. Sending the same message to your children.
That's they're shown by.
That is very important. If you're 2 different places.
So, I
Yeah.
actually heard this concept. I was studying Torah, and they said like rebellious son, and like there's all these parameters.
Right.
But anyways, it says the mother and father should be in the same tone of voice, but like they don't mean the same tone of voice. They actually mean shalom bayis.
Right, they get along, they both think the same, which never
So
really
I think
happens.
that's the goal.
Okay, thinking the same. Anyone else? Yeah.
I think that they have to share the same values at the end of the day. So if one person is like a little bit more than the other person, but they're both like growth oriented and
Good.
the same goal in mind, then that's one thing. But if someone is like all the way up here and then someone's down here and like they don't have the same values like what they foresee for their future, then there's no way that it would ever.
Good.
How about you just give one person the bad opportunity and the good opportunity and call it a day?
Well, what do you think will happen?
Realistically,
Very simple. Oh, go to mommy. No, daddy's, whatever daddy says.
realistically, shouldn't people be at the same level?
That is the worst thing, you know. Anyway, yeah. Okay, guys. You're all saying the same thing.
They really should just say like
You're all actually saying the same thing.
mother.
Just because one person knows more doesn't mean that the other respects it less. It could actually mean that if you know more, you might not have any respect for it. There are people that grew up with lots of Jewish knowledge and have 0 respect for Judaism. The question is, are you both going in the same direction? Meaning, do you both have equal respect for those values? Do you have similar respect for those values? It might be, I don't know about Shabbat so much. I never grew up with it, but I respect the value. So that's why I was saying there's three aspects. It's not just knowledge. Knowledge isn't everything. Have you ever been in a situation with someone where you're like doing something Jewish and someone says to you, you don't know about that? And you felt really uncomfortable? Has anyone ever done that to you?
Yeah.
Yeah? It's like, tough, sorry. Right, so
All the time, right?
so you're like downing some shrimp or something, and then someone's like, well, you don't even know that's kosher? That's not kosher? Like, hello? Okay. I'm just joking. But you know when that happens? When someone looks at you and says, oh, you don't know about that? And they looked at it, gives you, bless you, it gives you that feeling like there's something wrong with you. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. The opposite. It could mean if that person knows about it and doesn't respect it or doesn't live up to it in action, it could mean that they're much worse.
Yeah, I'd like to relate off that because
Yes.
recently, there's the 9 days where you can't, eat any meat. Or
Right, we don't eat meat,
or
yeah.
live music, and I only learned about it a few years ago once I started integrating myself into the whole people community.
Right.
So I felt blessed when I first learned. I was like, wow, I don't know about this. How did I know about this? And then people were like, it's if you didn't grow up with it, then it's a bit different. So,
Right.
I mean, there's a gray area or loophole.
I think it's very important for us to think we're responsible to like help our fellow Jews. When it comes to these mitzvahs, it's like, oh, this is just a mitzvah, it's something, a way to connect closer to Hashem. Let me show you how to do it.
Of course, there's a way to speak. That's a wrong way to speak, and that, you've got to be nice.
About it.
Yes. Okay, guys. If someone was to convert, next question. If someone's to convert, do you think they need to know the entire Talmud and Torah first?
No.
Is that possible?
No.
If someone wants to convert, do they need to know the entire Torah?
No.
Of course not, right? Even the most religious community, the most orthodox person will say you do not need to know all of Judaism in order to convert. It's not possible. And plus, someone who's converting is just starting to learn Hebrew. It's almost impossible. So you can't have the knowledge, but what do you need? You have to have the respect, which is you ask the person that converts, what do we ask them? Do you really want it? Will you accept all the mitzvot?
It's asked 3
Right?
times, isn't it?
Yes, we ask them 3 times. Will you really accept these values? You get it?
But what if they want these values just because of the person they're interested in?
That is a problem. If we know for sure that someone's converting for someone, they're dating someone and they're very serious, then they will have to wait a while before they can actually move on. It would actually make it take a longer process. It's a longer process because of that.
If you're converting, you can't necessarily date someone because they want to make sure that it's you're doing it for the right reasons.
Exactly.
Because it comes into question.
Right?
Or they just give you a hard time.
A really hard time.
Yeah.
A really hard time, but the reason is because we want to know that you sincerely want it. You respect it, even if you don't know everything. We understand it's not possible to know. That's how the Jewish people became the Jewish people. What did they say? They said, Na'aseh v'nishma. First we'll listen, then we'll do. So this is the answer to why some people they don't have tremendous knowledge. They did not read John Gray or whatever book it is in relationships, but their marriage stayed lasting for long term. Right? Their marriage lasted without the knowledge. And the reason is because they had respect for each other. Yes, it's true they didn't have all the knowledge of how it works, but they had the respect, and that's what made it work. So that's why respect is so much more important. Well, I wouldn't say it's more important, but it's the key to making the knowledge work. And action is the key to proving that the knowledge is real. Otherwise, you know something for no reason at all. So there's knowledge, there's knowing things, but that's not everything. We have to understand that we need the respect and we also need the action. That is the message of this great rabbi. And by the way, he was the ultimate person that lived with this ideology. Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa was a man that it says he lived in tremendous poverty. And before Shabbat, he didn't have any oil. His daughter thought, maybe we have oil here. It was vinegar. She poured it into the candlesticks and she's devastated. We've got no oil for Shabbat to light the candles. So Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa said immediately, the one that makes the one that makes oil light should make vinegar light also. And it worked. Meaning, he lived in a level where his awe and respect was so high for Judaism that reality changed for him. He saw nature, oil. You put a wick in oil and it gives you a flame. That is nature. He saw what's natural, a miracle also. It's not just a random phenomena. He saw it in itself as a miracle. And when he did, nature went against this course for him. So that was the story of Reb Chanina ben Dosa, someone who had absolute respect. And then eventually reality came with him also. Right? Respect is so important in terms of making your wisdom and your knowledge work. Okay, so that is, when it comes to Judaism, it's not good enough to know, it's also important to have Yirat Shamayim, which means respecting the Shabbat also. Not just knowing about the laws of it, but also seeing the value and the beauty in it. Okay, then this rabbi said something very interesting. He continues his statement, and we'll finish off with this. He said some very powerful things, and we'll finish it off here. He said like this. So the next Mishnah number 10, he says that anyone who people are pleased with, you should know that God is pleased with you also. By the way, that's how we know if someone's today, in our generation, how do we know if someone's a rabbi? A great leader of the Jewish people. So one is if he has knowledge, but you can't really sit with him and test him. One of the ways is how he gets along with people. Is it somebody, besides for the knowledge also, but is he someone that's makubal etzelam, like he's accepted amongst the people? Once he's accepted amongst the people, then we also know that, okay, there's also knowledge and there's a great respect that people have for him amongst the people. So there is a statement which says that somebody who is pleasant to his surrounding is pleasant to God also, can know that he's also good with Hashem. But somebody who is not pleasant to his surrounding, where people are not, and it says, by the way, all creations, not only human beings, are not happy around him, then that person is not a person that God is happy with. Okay, that's a very powerful statement. By the way, can you have somebody who thinks he's good with God but bad with people? Give me an example where someone thinks, I'm good with God but very bad with people. Can anyone think of a good example? Huh? Someone who thinks in his own mind, I'm good with God,
A contractor.
but I'm very bad with people.
They daven all the time.
Okay, someone who prays all the time, why is he bad to people?
I'm studying, you can't distract me.
I'm studying, don't disturb me. Is that good?
To a certain point, but then there's
To a certain point. Yes,
limitations.
absolutely. Part of humanity, part of the will of God is that we interact with other human beings. It says that there was a great story of a great rabbi. His name was Rav Pinchas of Koretz. We just had someone here who said that that's his name. He said that he had many followers to a point where he was driven crazy and he couldn't think. He couldn't study, he couldn't think, and he had many followers. So he prayed for many hours that they should leave him alone. And exactly that happened. People started leaving him alone until he came to the holiday of Sukkot. Sukkot holiday is when we have people coming into our tent. And we're meant to invite who? Into our tent? The Ushpizin. We're meant to invite our forefathers into the tent. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, David, right? We invite Aaron, Moshe, we invite all our great leaders into the tent. Each day, the 7 days, we invite 7 leaders into the tent. And on the first day, he said, Abraham, come in. And he realized Abraham can't come in to his tent because Abraham represented guests, kindness, hosting, giving time to others. And he said, that's exactly not who I am. How can I have Abraham in my place if I'm not like that? Meaning, the foundation of Judaism is, yes, you've got to know. You've got to have goodness in you with God, but you've also got to be good with human beings. A very important message that sometimes people think, how do I know if I'm a good person? And the answer is not that I'm just pleasing to others, not that I'm just doing things to be good to others so they look good of me. But if I'm inside, I feel good with others. When they're not around me, I feel good with others. Kol shedat Kol sheruach habriyot nocha mimenu means when I'm comfortable in my skin with the people around me, I'm happy with who they are, then I know that God is also happy with me. That is a rule. By the way, it says it repeats itself. Why does it repeat itself? It says first, anyone who's happy with others, God is happy with him. And anyone who's not happy or doesn't get along with creations, then God is not going to get along with him or is unhappy with him. So what does that mean? Why is it repeating itself? First positively and then negatively. First, yes, you've got to get along. We've got to get along with others because then God will get along with you. And if you're not getting along with others, then God will not get along with you. It doesn't work. Anyone know? Why is it repeating itself? What happens if it just said, if you get along with others, then God is happy with you? If it just said those words, what would I think? Well, I have other ways.
Just like people.
Right? I'll have other ways to make God like me. I don't only need to do it this way. And what does it say? No. If you're not pleasant, you're not pleasant with God either. That's what it says. If you're not a pleasant person, then you can't be pleasant with God. By the way, when it comes to Yom Kippur, it says that we've got to ask forgiveness from Hashem. But it doesn't work if we don't ask forgiveness from our brothers and sisters first. Okay? So, it's teaching me that if Judaism isn't pleasant with others, it's not Judaism. If you're not pleasant and peaceful, you are not Judaism. It's just not Judaism. It doesn't work. And then he says something very interesting. This is actually not Rabbi Yochanan ben Dosa, but it's Rabbi Dosa ben Haukinos, who said that if somebody sleeps in the morning, and we'll finish with this, some little musar. Somebody sleeps in the morning, Sheina shel shacharit, sleeping in the morning. Yayin shel tzaorayim, drinking in the afternoon.
What's wrong with that?
Oh, for those that say, weed is not that bad because whatever, but you know, you let alcohol, but then you say weed is a bit of a problem. What's going on here? Well, listen to this statement. Yayin shel tzaorayim, having alcohol in the afternoon, midday. V'sichat hayeladim, having wasteful conversations for no reason with the kind of conversations that kids talk. V'yeshivat bati knesset shel amei haaretz, or sitting around with people that are ignorant, that just talk about stupidity. What would you think? That's better for life or worse?
Worse.
Yeah. Sleep in the morning, that's healthy. You sleep in, so you relax your body more. That's good. Drinking in the afternoon? What's wrong with a bit of tequila in the afternoon? Huh? Or talking gibberish? That, by the way, could also mean on social media for hours on end, right? That's the same idea, right? What's wrong with that? I'm relaxing. Isn't relaxing good for my heart? Wouldn't that make me live longer? And the answer is, Motzi'im et ha'adam min ha'olam, someone who lives in that way, actually has less time in this world. Not only mentally, but also physically.
Why?
Because when you're not productive, you feel sad and down, and that danger of downness can hurt you much more than being active and with energy every day, getting up early, getting out in your day, right? Making the most out of your day, not drinking. It gives a certain energy. Someone who's free to just sit in his bed all day, eventually that freedom, okay, so your heart is a little more relaxed, but in long term, that will actually affect your longevity. It says, Motzi'in et ha'adam min ha'olam. That actually takes you out of this world. It's crazy. So my blessing is to everyone that you should have a lot of energy, filled with lots of life. And you should always remember these values that they are so important. Remember that knowledge is key, it's power, but also respecting. Otherwise, the knowledge isn't anything. Okay? So, all right. Thank you all for listening, and have a great night. Thank you.